Zoom is a great system, but they must be overloaded, back to school and all that. So we will give them a break and we will get going with our very first, what do I call this? Episode, discussion, interview. I can't really call it a podcast yet, but it might develop into that. But so far, I'm calling it Positive People Progressing. I just feel like there needs to be more people that are positive, telling us about why they are so positive about the future, about business, and how they're progressing. We really need to just come together. One of my favorite sayings is that you become who you hang around. So this is that one opportunity of the week where you're going to meet some very positive people who are definitely progressing. And Mitch Russo is my first guest to have on these interviews, discussions, whatever I wind up calling it. So welcome, Mitch.
Thank you, Marty. It's great to be out of Zoom jail and happy to be with you.
Yes, indeed. Zoom jail. I love it. So, you know, a lot of podcasters and a lot of interviewers, they just kind of come across somebody, or maybe you got pitched by somebody to come onto your show and they give an introduction. But Mitch and I got introduced to each other through a completely different means. And it was through a mutual acquaintance of ours, Kevin Thompson, who runs a new type of mastermind group called Tribe for Leaders. And so Kevin was solely himself, just kind of going around and picking and choosing people that he felt would be a good fit for Tribe for Leaders. So I got a call, and Mitch got a call, and a couple other people got a call as well. And we had a scheduled date, and we met on a Zoom call. Well, the meeting was supposed to go for about an hour and a half, and we wound up almost 3 hours. We were talking on this single meeting. It was just so engaging. So I got to not only be introduced to Mitch, but I got to listen to him advise other business owners that were already doing really well out there how to do even better in this 2020. And I was just captivated. So I was thinking about starting this, and I thought, I gotta have Mitch as my first interviewee, and he accepted. So thank you again. A couple of things that I learned about Mitch in this little session that we had is that he actually started a software company in the 1980s, and he sold it for 8 figures. Now, that alone, we could spend a couple hours talking about, quite an experience. He went on to work with Tony Robbins and Chet Holmes to build a $25 million business together. That we could also spend another day on. He's been nominated for 2 Inc. Magazine Entrepreneur of the Year awards. I would love to know how to go about doing that. And if you ever want to know what it really takes, I know we hear so much about this on the web. If you really want to know what it takes to truly scale your business quickly, this is the guy. This is the guy. He's a 2-time author. His first book was The Invisible Organization, How Ingenious CEOs Are Creating Thriving Virtual Companies. And most recently, Power Tribes, How Certification Can Explode Your Business. And I just learned this morning, Mitch, that you, like me, are a rock and roll guitar player, man. That's awesome.
You got it.
I never made any money at that, though. You were playing in high school and had a great story about making some good bank as a high school band, right? That's pretty impressive.
Yeah. At one point, I think I made more money playing guitar than as an internet marketer many years ago. Which, by the way, says nothing about my guitar playing skills, just to let you know.
A lot of people can make that claim, that's for sure. Well, Mitch, you know, we'll get into more of your credentials and stories and things like that. The 30 minutes flies, that's for sure. So I want to get right into you helping my audience and people that'll hear the recording of this by answering a quick question for me. And I've been asking this of pretty much everybody that I've been coming into contact with that is thinking positively and going in a progressive direction. Please answer this question. Do you believe that right now is still the best time in history to have a business?
You know, it's a hard answer to hear if you've just been through a loss. A lot of people, as you know, have lost everything in COVID. But the true answer is yes. And there's a reason why now is the best time. We're talking about what I've heard other people refer to as the Great Reset. And there's so much that is resetting, including the leadership of our entire country in just a few months. But more relevant to us and what we do, what's resetting is the way that people have gotten serious about taking care of themselves by building a viable organization, even if it's a one-person organization, to make money by marketing on the internet. The internet is the tool that we now predominantly use to communicate, to transact, to deliver our services. And it's really never a better time. The infrastructure's in place. The audience is in place. I mean, come on, how many of us are home now more than ever before? This is the best time ever.
That's awesome. So I know your background and all the companies that you've helped build and everything. And the other main, I only have a couple of really important questions that I'd like to have asked, and that was one of them. Then we're just going to talk after this one. Here's number two for you. It's actually a two-part question.
Okay.
What I'd really like to know is, out of all your history working with companies and where things are now, where things are going in the future, can you talk about some things that are still the same? They're going to work today like they did 15, 20 years ago. And then there are some things that just aren't going to work anymore. We can put all our experience behind us, and now we have this next normal to work with.
Yep. So the first part is fairly easy because I think we can all identify with it. It's building trust. It's making sure that before you try to either sell or deliver a product, that the person that you're talking to or communicating with understands you, likes you, trusts you. These are the components that begin any relationship, any sales relationship. And truthfully, that's just not changed. It's never changed. It's been this way for thousands, tens of thousands of years because we're human beings. We're wired to need that security of trusting another human being before we give them something of value in exchange for a perceived value, because we give them something of value and then we haven't gotten anything back yet. We hope we do. So that perceived trust is critical. Now, what's changed, I could sum up what's changed, and that's everything. I mean, it's like, so here's where, Marty, this is really what I've been focused on for the last, really since March. And it all started with a request. I'm focusing on revenue dislocation now for new clients. And the reason is because so many people have come to me and said, we were making, 200,000-300,000 a year, like clockwork for the last decade or two. And now the whole thing just stopped. We lost our stages. We lost our ability to travel. We lost our meeting rooms. Think of all the companies that depended on some form of a meeting in order to exist. Well, those are gone. And I could give you example after example, but the bottom line is that I developed a system of taking someone through a process that in about 60 days will return them to just about where they were. It'll be the beginning of returning them to where they were. And that's the revenue dislocation system that I've been building. The other thing, of course, that has changed is the urgency to move forward. Now, in the past, you had some luxury. You were working at a job, you were doing something else, and you were thinking of starting a gig on the side. Well, that used to be something you maybe sort of took casually and maybe spent a few evenings a week on. And for a lot of people, what's really changed is the urgency. They're really just going for it now because, hey, you have to. You just got to build your revenue right now. And that's what people need help with.
Yeah. Well, I think there are quadrants of people. There are people who have realized then it's time to go. They got to get going and start trying new things. And
Hmm.
then there is this other group that, well, I'm going to wait and see if my kid actually does go back to school, because then I'll have time. Then I'll have the house to myself. Then I'll have my computer to work from and go
Hmm.
from there. What do you say to the people who are still just kind of waiting for that pivotal moment where they can actually move forward?
Well, I mean, there's a reason they're waiting. Like you said, you gave us a few examples, but in most cases, the ability to sit down and create the future may not require action right now. Meaning, when I work with the client, the first thing we do is we examine what their true desires are and where their true assets lie. And in some cases, I've worked with men and women 50 and older, and they are discovering this now with me in a relatively short session for sometimes the first time in their lives. Many folks evolved into a place where they were making a living and doing work, but never really stopped to ask themselves, what is it that I truly, truly want? And how does that align with what I'm really good at? And the answer is surprising. And I urge everyone to do some of this introspection and decide whether or not you can couple and align those two, because when you do, you have the potential to create something beautiful and something powerful.
Mhm. Yeah, but I think that the whole idea of people figuring out what they want has changed. I mean, if
Hmm.
you want to start a business, if you want to grow your existing business, heck, if you work for a company and you want to get a promotion and you want to get another week's vacation by next year, what are you going to do with that? You want to go on a cruise, you want to go tour Europe, you want to do all these things, go visit your kids in a different state. There's all kinds of things that we want to be able to do, and a lot of that's changed. So how do you realign what you want to do versus what you're able to do because of this next normal that we have coming?
Well, here's what you said. What you said is that we're not going on vacation. We're probably not going to restaurants much. We're really not getting on planes. We're not meeting in public places much unless we have to go to the grocery store. So if you take all of those things and you subtract yourself or time from them, what's left is money and time. So you're not spending on travel, restaurants, or any of these other activities, and you're not spending your time on vacation. Not that you don't want to go on vacation. I'm a travel photographer. That's my passion, and I had 4 trips I canceled. So I mean, guess what? I got a lot of time, and probably a little bit extra money that I didn't count on having because I had
Right.
budgeted that for travel. So I spend that on self-development. I spend that on coaching. I spend that on finding my next level, as I always have all my life. And what I'm discovering now is that there's a whole lot I can do every day, even if it's just for a few hours a day or if even a few minutes a day, that I could use to advance myself, to grow, to learn, to create the future, which is unknown in many ways. But here's what we do know. We know that we have the internet. We know that we have time, and we know that we could help people. And what I've discovered after helping thousands of people is that the thing other people love to do the most is help others. And if we could just figure out how to do so in a way that energizes us, satisfies us, makes us light up inside and feel alive, then we have the answer. And now we can start to pursue that.
That's great. Helping people is the whole crux of the internet. I mean, that's what we do, is we look for ways to help people. That's a great answer. And I'm trying to figure if that applies to the other quadrant too, because there's another group of people who have established companies. They might be 5, 10, $20 million companies. They've got a staff of people that they've been faced with potential layoffs and certainly have had furloughs by now. And maybe they're bringing some people back, but they're all working virtually. They're still not working in offices. I mean, there are some CEOs out there saying, when is this going to improve? All this time I've spent sacrificing and putting together my goals of how I want this to all move forward. And they're always so organized and sequenced and step by step and methodical. And through the years, they've built all this. And now it's just all come to a screeching halt. How can what you just said apply to an existing CEO of a company?
Well, the only, let's put it this way, the CEOs that I speak to, which by the way are not restaurant owners, have found and discovered something that I wrote about in 2015 in my book, The Invisible Organization, that working virtually is actually far more profitable and creates far more productivity than having people come to an office. Most of our car insurances have dropped in price or dropped in fees because we're just spending a whole lot less time in the car. The office buildings of the past won't be occupied anymore the way they were in the future. And the interesting part about that is that if you would have asked the CEO before COVID if that were possible. So let's say you phoned up the CEO of this company that had a $20 million business and they're in an office right now and said, hey, tomorrow you're going to have to take everybody and send them home to work. What's going to happen to your business?
Oh, yeah.
Right. So that guy's going to go, oh my goodness, you kidding me? We're done. We're over.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
and unless you're serving food, it turned out to be exactly the opposite. Isn't that interesting? I mean, exactly the opposite. We have huge billion-dollar companies telling their employees, you know what? You don't have to come back. In fact, work from home. We'll sell the real estate, or we'll fill it with craft shops or something. But we don't really need you to come back. So, bottom line is that there are some very, very suffering people. People have really suffered with this, lost everything, and my heart goes out to them. I mean, those are the folks who had face-to-face businesses. I have a client who invented this incredible meditation system, and the way he would deploy it is he hold hundreds of these meetings all over the country with individual meditation teachers. And this all happened every week, every month of the year. These classes were going on, and that's how he made a living. Well, all of a sudden, boom, he's dead. So what did we do? We figured out how to take what he teaches and bring it online. And it's not as easy as it sounds. It's not like you're teaching something you could, watch a few videos and learn. This is a physical process. And yet what we did is we broke it down and analyzed it. And we were able to teach people using the internet how to be their own coach and how to coach another family member in this incredibly powerful process. And, he went from being completely zero revenue to getting back to where he was before. Now, here's what's interesting, Marty. What's going to happen in 2022 when the whole world is vaccinated and everybody is going back to work? He's now going to have two businesses. He's going to have his online business and he's going to have his live business. And the bottom line is that his live business will only add to everything he's already done to take the whole process online. So as you can tell, Marty, I'm an optimistic guy.
Sure. That's why you're here, man.
Exactly.
Awesome.
Exactly.
Well, you touched on another point that I want to bring up, because this person that you're just talking about did something. They did something miraculous. They made a major shift in their industry, in their business, to solve a problem in their industry. There is this middle quadrant. We talked about people who are just, they're not ready to move anywhere yet. I'm staying where I am, gonna see what happens. And then you've got the CEOs of existing companies that are just, what is going to happen? Oh my gosh, how do I handle this? There's this middle quadrant of people who already have businesses and they are just soaring. I mean, they're having some of the best months of their business, even though they've been in business for 10, 15, 20 years.
Yep.
So let's talk about those people a little bit, because that is really the crux of this entire program that I'm offering here every Wednesday is I want people to be around people who are in that middle quadrant. We need to spend time with them. Tell me a little bit about, that was one great example, but have you found a common denominator among all business owners that are really just soaring right now in one of the most challenging times we've had in decades?
Well, I totally agree, Mike. It's interesting. I mean, the obvious answer is lots of people with online businesses really weren't affected much, but there were those who were. In fact, my business came to a screeching halt in March because really many of the types of clients that I had couldn't afford to pay for coaching anymore. But what happened is that very rapidly a new batch of clients showed up and started signing up, because what they realized is what has propelled people forward even now are marketing and marketing systems. And that's really a lot of what my expertise is about. After 40 years in business, I've basically perfected the process of getting out there and being seen by the public in your particular market. And I have a little ebook that I'm offering to your viewers who would like that as well. But the thing is marketing, Marty. It's marketing. It's if you can get off of, now remember, we're way past the shock of COVID, but if you could go back and remember what that felt like, I mean, it was like a bomb hit, and you were on the couch. I know I was on the couch thinking, well, I guess we got Netflix, I think.
Yeah.
But I mean, ultimately, you have to get up off the couch. Now, one of the things I did, the question that came to my mind rapidly was, how am I going to use this time? And you said this earlier, Marty, the time that you spend now in this era changing your life will determine your entire future. So if you have taken this time and gotten 15 pounds heavier and watched all of the back seasons of all the TV shows, then you're not anywhere further along than where you were when this started. However, if you've built something, if you've created something, if you've invented something, if you've discovered something, even about yourself, if you've moved into a place where now there's hope where there wasn't before, then you've made good use of this time. And that's really all I advocate for anybody that I come in contact with, is please make good use of this time. And that's why I wrote this book. It's basically for everybody to use and immediately get publicity and be on podcasts and have, just get in front of people. Here's the thing. I don't even care what you do, but if you told other people about what it was, they might want to work with you. And unless you're, doing something that you wouldn't want to do in a COVID environment, odds are you will get buyers now. Here's another interesting thing, Marty. People have cash. People have money. It's not as if everybody's broke. Yes, there's a segment who are, but people are, the government has stepped in, and in some cases, not in a lot, but in some cases, people are actually making far more money now with government support than they made before. Part of it is they're still making money and getting government support, which is fine. That's what the government wanted to do. And some of that has driven our crazy stock market. But at the same time, others have used it and said, you know what? I'm investing in myself. I'm going to get on this program and I'm going to create something. And so in my COVID stupor, I decided to create my simple new program called Profit Stacking Secrets.
Awesome. Yeah. And I was just going to get into that because I want to talk about just a couple of specifics that are in that ebook. After we met in this 3-hour meeting that we had, I went to his website and I downloaded this ebook. And there are two things that really stand out about this ebook, because a lot of people talk about, oh, you should get on podcasts. Oh, you should joint venture with other people. But very rarely will you see someone provide an actual email to send to someone that runs a podcast, so that you can ask to be part of that podcast, to be interviewed. And since Mitch has a really successful podcast out there and gets these pitch letters all the time from people, he knows what to assemble to get on other podcasts as well. See how that goes together? And I read this pitch letter that he had in this ebook, and I was like, how can you offer that for free? I mean, that thing, that alone is worth literally thousands of dollars, and it's just there for free. Can you justify that first? Why would you give away something that valuable in just an ebook?
Here's what it comes down to, Marty. I told you before, I'm not going to try and sound all altruistic and stuff, but I do like to help people. And if I could offer something of value to someone else and give them a lift right now, and it costs me virtually nothing to do that, it's just something I know. And I just felt like, why not? It's also a good chance for those who do download it, for those who do use it, for those who do benefit from it, to get to know me a little bit better. And maybe even follow me on social media, or at the high end might even want to work with me. I mean, this is what we do. This is how we establish the trust that I told you about in your very first question to me as we got on the air. It's how do you establish trust? Well, this is the way. You give away really, really great information. Chet taught that to me. Chet Holmes is deceased, but we were in a room once. I'll tell you a quick story. And Chet is in front of this room, and he's disclosing our entire back-end system. And after the meeting, I said, Chet, how could you do that? We just spent years figuring this stuff out, and it wasn't easy. And he said, Mitch, nobody will ever take what I just said and try and do it, but they will hire us to do it because now they know we know how. So that's part of what marketing is about, Marty. It's showing people that you are an expert and that you know how. And part of that proof is giving them something that lets them succeed and prosper even before you charge them anything at all. And so my ebook is a gesture. It's my gift to those of your listeners who would like it, but it's also a pathway that will make you more money and get you deeper into knowing who I am in a relationship with me, which is, sure, I think, what we all want to do.
Yeah, I have posted a link in our Facebook virtual live events Facebook page where this is being pushed to. So I'm going to suggest to certainly every client of mine that they go and get this immediately, because we can work together. I can help them with the things that you talk about in that ebook. I mean, it's a great compliment for any service provider that has clients to tell their clients to go get your ebook, because they can work together with them and with you to make them just soar. And one of those important aspects that you bring up in the ebook, not only getting on podcasts, having that pitch letter, but also joint venturing. And when I read that, I thought, oh my gosh, I think the first joint venture I did was in 1996 when I started my very first website. I mean, joint venturing has been around forever, and here you have a brand new ebook out and you're suggesting that people joint venture with each other. That's one thing that has been around forever on the internet. I wonder if we just have a couple of minutes here left. I like to start and stop and keep to 30 minutes, respect your time and everybody else's, even though we start a little bit late, so we got to get this last point in. Why do you think that joint venturing is still one of the most amazing ways to grow your business today?
Well, I built my software company on joint ventures. I didn't have any money, so that helped motivate me to go find people who might want to help market my products. And, in many ways, when you joint venture with somebody else, it's basically an implied endorsement. So, if you and I were to joint venture and I were to sell my audience your stuff, I'm telling my audience, I think Marty's stuff is great and you should take a look at it. Now, in the ebook, I'm not going to just give you the letters you're going to use. I'm also going to give you several places that you could go to actually make offers, like in a joint venture community, several of them. Same with the podcast. I'm not just going to give you the pitch letter. I'm going to give you 4 different places that you could set up profiles and have people find you for free. So I'm not just throwing something out there. I want you to use this. Guys, if you use this, you will get more publicity, guaranteed.
Yeah, that is awesome. I mean, so many people try to get you into their sales funnel, and there's just nothing there. And then I get emails from, I mean, I study this stuff. I am on so many lists, and so you can imagine, I get like 1,500 emails a day. It's just absurd because I'm on all these lists. And I just wind up not even paying attention to them because I just know that there's no value. But when I saw Mitch's, I mean, it's not even really long enough to call it an ebook. It doesn't need to be. It's just, here are 3 sections that you need to do. You want to get publicity, bang, bang, bang. This is what you do. 1, 2, 3. It's that simple. So I just wish there were more opportunities like that out there for people, but I really suggest everybody go get that. So anything else that you think we should be talking about that we haven't brought up before I let you go today?
I also want to mention that, and this is, I think, a big deal for a lot of folks, and that is hope. I want everyone to understand that no matter what is going on in this world right now, we are evolving as a race, as beings. We are evolving to the next level. And the reason I say that is because there's a lot of negativity. There's some violence. There's threats to our financial future and even our freedoms. But all I could tell you is that I have faith in the human condition. I have faith in human beings to take this, and as hard as it will be, to come out the other side even better than we were before. And unfortunately, we'll have lost some of our fellow men in the process. But on the other side of this, I believe that we have a better world to build for our children and to live in ourselves. That's my belief.
That is a great way to sum up the first ever Positive People Progressing, I don't know what this is, podcast, interview, discussion, whatever it turns into. This is the starting point. I will remember forever that you graciously volunteered your time to help me out with this very first episode. And we will have next week Rich Hopkins. Rich was very interesting in the summer at the heat of the COVID thing, and nobody could be speaking. He's a professional speaker, and somehow he wound up speaking in over 100 locations over the summer alone in multiple different countries. Now talk about a positive person. How did he do it? Well, that is next week's episode right here at the same time, every Wednesday. Positive People Progressing. This is Marty Dickinson with Mitch Russo saying bye for now, and we'll see you next week. Be positive out there, everybody.